Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. If you find you enjoy this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by Michiga Kerr. My house has to have a uniform appearance. Okay. So this happened in the early 2000s. I had a chance meeting with an old friend who reminded me of the story. Just for clarification's sake, I had an accident which left me with a long road to recover personal mobility. At the time, I lived in a third-story Victorian-era apartment, so I bought a ranch-style house that was better suited to my recovery. The house was a 3-bed, 2.5-bath detached garage, and by my opinion, a rather ugly shade of yellow. My girlfriend at the time took the opportunity to move in with me, and beyond family, I had 2 regular visitors, a personal trainer and an aide. So for argument's sake, I can't say that everything leading up to the malicious compliance was brought on by one single neighbor, but at this very least, if I had a fire, she was pouring gasoline on it. I quite quickly met 2 of my neighbors upon moving in. The 2 couldn't be any more opposite if they tried. One neighbor, Al, an old biker, whom everyone should have a neighbor like at least once in their lives, and the other, Wilma, nosy neighbor extraordinaire. The rest of the neighborhood was a great blend of ages, ethnicities, families, and not. Just good people doing the best they could. Things started off on the wrong foot. More appropriately, wheel with Wilma. Right off the bat, she made it clear that she was the type of person to personally inspect anything you did to your house, and she did not mind telling you if something wasn't up to her standards, which included my old '69 Chevy truck she clearly thought was ugly. Note throughout the story that I wasn't able to drive it as I was mostly wheelchair bound, however I kept it registered and ready. Though for some reason Wilma loved my girlfriend and would talk at length to her. My girlfriend did not share the same feelings for Wilma. Al, on the other hand, being a gearhead, quickly decided that I was his new best friend. Looking back, I'm glad Al was there. I'm not sure I ever told him, but he definitely had a way to pick me up on even my worst days. Anyways, problems mounted fairly quickly. I had hired a contractor to make some modifications to the house, and we were nearly constantly hit with inspections and stop work orders. It was clear that someone was complaining, and more often than not, Wilma seemed to be in the know about what the inspection was for. I remember one day my contractor calling the police because she was constantly on site and butting in. After that day, she'd stand on the sidewalk watching everything. Shortly after construction ended, came rumors that I was cheating on my girlfriend. Nikki, my aide, was by most accounts a very attractive woman, but I wasn't her type. To be blunt, no guy was. Then came the rumors that I was having a gay affair. To be fair, I don't know who or what buff biff my trainer/physical therapy guy was into. I do know he enjoyed bending me into a pretzel and telling me I wasn't trying hard enough. Nice guy outside that. Of course, the gay rumors spurred the local church flyers and occasional visits to attempt to save me. Nikki tried to put on a good face, but she was clearly bothered by it, and that pissed us all off. Come one day, Al had had enough and confronted the church member as they were walking up to the house. It wasn't anything physical, but it was loud enough with open windows to hear Al let them know we all had had enough. Wilma called the cops, but at least that harassment stopped. From that day on, it seems like I either had the city or the police knocking on my door all the time. If Al took me for a ride in my pickup, cops were called. If my truck wasn't parked by whoever I let drive it in my garage at night, city was called. If my grass was a touch shaggy, city was called. If I was in my garage and dropped a wrench after 10 p.m., cops were called. If we had friends over and we were boisterous after dark, cops were called. Nikki's fiance came over and planted some flowers for me. She was a sweetheart like that. Yep, city came and visited, and I had to have my yard rearranged. So much for low-maintenance yard. All the while, somehow Wilma seemed to know everything about what was going on. One evening we had a bad storm. In the storm, a large branch fell off the oak in my yard and ripped off several rows of siding. Sure enough, city came knocking as my contractors cleaning up the branches. I ended up with a notice to repair the siding on the house or face penalties. Now we couldn't get the same siding, and to be honest, I was a bit excited to get rid of the ugly yellow, at least on the front of the house. My contractor made some emergency patches to the siding while we were supposed to decide what to do. Of course, this brought Wilma out, who informed us that city code required a uniform appearance of the house, and Wilma was not a fan of my stating that I was thinking the house would look good in a tan color. She was trying to steer me back to yellow because my second choice, white, would have been too many white houses in a row in her opinion. Cue malicious compliance. I confirmed with the city that yes, the house had to have a uniform appearance, which meant that I would have to at least paint the rest of the house to match the front. Somehow during this time, I found out that Wilma absolutely hated the color fuchsia. So I proceeded to tell my contractor to paint the house fuchsia. It just so happened that Wilma was away the week my house was being repaired and painted. So upon her return, she wasted no time coming over to demand we painted it a different color. My girlfriend looked her straight in the eye and said something to the effect of, "It's such a lovely color and certainly wakes up the neighborhood." Wilma stormed off. Aftermath, that was more or less the end of our direct conversations with Wilma. She did call the city, who came out and gave us the blessing to keep the color. And she did complain about the hideous house across the street to our neighbors. The officers were also more or less done with her harassment towards us. I'm not sure what they said or if they said anything, but there was definitely a reduction in visits. About a year later, Wilma suffered a heart attack, which she survived, but decided to move closer to her children. I moved out a year after that, and I found out via said friend that the house is still fuchsia. So if you had a neighbor that just was out to annoy you, called the cops, called code enforcement, tried to get you in trouble any way they could, would you be willing to paint your entire house a specific color just to upset them? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Outbreak Monkey. You never cut the pizza straight. One guy complained every week that we didn't cut the pizza straight enough. To be fair, we probably didn't cut it particularly well most of the time, but this guy kept calling and kept complaining even after we made sure to cut his more carefully. After every delivery, he'd call and complain, and the manager would give him a 50% off code, mainly to get him off the phone. Every week, we'd expect his call. Every week, he'd call like clockwork, bang on about how we wrecked the pizza last week. Someone else should double check that the pizza is cut straight, or he'd be complaining again. This went on for a couple of months. We found it pretty funny, it didn't really affect us, and I actually tipped the leftover change, which is moderately rare in Australia. Over the weeks, we really tried to make his pizza as perfect as possible. One of the guys even made up a template on a pizza box with centering circles and perfectly aligned marks for where to cut. Nope, still not straight enough. Eventually, the franchise owner found out and said we couldn't keep giving him free vouchers, even though 50% off is still very profitable. So we politely cut him off from the discount vouchers. But that just made the complaint calls longer, and he complained harder because he expected better for a full-price pizza. One week, the manager thought it'd be funny to screw with the guy and cut his pizza really messily. I think we ended up with 9 vastly different shaped slices. This just pissed the customer off even more, so much that he took photos, the paper kind, and brought them into the store for the owner to see. Apparently the owner thought it was funny, but he still warned the manager saying, "Don't mess with the guy, just cut the darn pizza straight so he stops complaining." Which is when I had my malicious compliance idea. Cut the pizza straight. Yes. When his pizza came out, I grabbed a tape measure and cut him 8 parallel equal width slices. We discussed making them equal area but couldn't work out the math. We boxed up his long straight pizza fingers and sent them off for delivery. And that was that. He stopped complaining, still ordered occasionally, though not as often. As a bonus, we started cutting our staffy pizzas into long parallel slices. It actually works pretty well. What if there's a plot twist and that was actually the way they wanted the pizza the entire time, and they just were never descriptive enough? But either way, fundamentally the problem was you kept rewarding him for complaining. Why would he stop if 2, 3, 4 times in a row he kept getting half-off pizzas for calling up and saying, "Hey, you suck at cutting this pizza"? It just makes sense for him to keep going if he's benefiting from it. Our next story is by Ian Caradoc, Reverse Psychology Fail. Whenever my brother and I used to fight, my father would grab us, drag us outside, and tell us, "You wanna fight? Fight outside." We'd stand there, just kind of looking at him and each other, until he'd say, "Now shake hands." Until one day he dragged us outside, yelled, "You wanna fight?" And I punched my brother in the face as hard as I could. Dad grabbed me and yelled, "What the heck are you doing?" I said, "You told me to." He never did that again. I mean, you drag the kids outside and you basically say, "You want to do the thing you wanted to do 5 seconds ago, just in a different location?" In fact, you're practically promoting it happening. I don't know how surprised they can truly be. Our next story is by Visit Magrathea. A customer wanted her ice cream crunchy, so I made it crunchy. Briefly during the pandemic, I worked as a manager at a Ralph's, a New York City area ice cream chain, and one night as I'm helping out scooping, I hear a customer getting annoyed at the window and starting to get snippy with one of the young kids who was working the window, so I head over to smooth out the situation as manager. The woman's mad because the hot fudge on her hot fudge sundae is hot and going to melt the ice cream. I explained to her that hot fudge is indeed served hot, but she insists, so I make her a new sundae with magic shell topping instead and let her keep the hot fudge one. By the time I return with that, this customer is stirring her spoon through another cup of cream ice, kind of like a sherbet she ordered. Obviously about to complain about it, the flavor she ordered was called Graham Crunch, and she proceeded to tell me that there wasn't any Graham Crunch in it. That she orders this flavor all the time and she knows that I'm intentionally stiffing her. I tell her that this is just how the flavor is and I don't name or make the ice cream, but she isn't having it. She wants me to fix it. We've got some crushed graham cracker topping in the back, so as she's berating me, I just walk away from her and grab the entire container and come back to the window with it. At this point, we've got a line of people down the block because this lady has held us up, so there's lots of witnesses to what I was about to do. Without breaking eye contact with her as she continues to tell me that I'm wrong about the ice cream I scoop 6 days a week, I open the lid of the container and empty the entire thing over her cup of the offending ice cream. Graham crackers are everywhere. Her ice cream is now definitely crunchy. She loses her mind at this and starts yelling at me that she knows the owner and she'll get me fired. I tell her, yeah, Steve's a nice guy. And she responds with, I've known Steve a long time. To which I respond, well, his name is John. Get out of here and don't bother my employees for free ice cream again. Now sufficiently embarrassed in front of a long line of customers, the lady leaves in a huff and indeed never returns. The next few customers left us $20 in tips in the jar to make up for her, so the kids who worked for me left with quite a bit more in their pockets than they normally would and realized that their manager had their back. That's a pretty effective and nifty trick for the whole, I know the owner, I can get you fired. You just be like, oh yeah, Ralph's a nice guy. They fall for it, oh yeah, I've known Ralph for a long time. It's like, oh, you must know the real owner too then, Susan. Wah wah. And our final story of the day is by Sapir93. Can't move until I have a shirt? Okay, everyone can see my nipples. This was at New York City Gay Pride just a few weeks ago. Me, my partner, and 4 friends are all gay guys. And like hundreds of thousands of queers around the world, we went to New York City for Pride this year. We booked a nice but not super nice hotel around Times Square, which is walking distance from the gay village where nearly all of the gay bars are. This means tons of the hotel patrons are there celebrating Pride. The first night we're there, we go to the clubs and return to the hotel around 3 a.m. Everyone entering the hotel is also clearly coming back from bars, drunk and in various scantily clad outfits, but technically wearing shirts. We're talking fishnet tops where you can see everything, people wearing their shirts around their neck but not actually put on, etc. Don't even get me started on people's pants. We go through the door and into the lobby where we're immediately stopped by hotel staff saying we can't go any further if I don't have a shirt. The elevators to our room are probably a 3-second walk from the entryway, but walking to the elevator's not an option. They say I need a shirt or I'm not going anywhere. So, fine. I send my partner up to get me a shirt. He has to ride the elevator up like 20 floors, walk to the room, find me a shirt, uses the bathroom, has a little chat up there because drunk people aren't the most focused, and rides the elevator back down 20 floors to deliver me a shirt. Meanwhile, I'm standing smack in the middle of the lobby for like 20 minutes while every single guest gets to spectate me and my nipples, the very thing that was too inappropriate to walk 3 seconds to the elevator over. The staff stood with me uncomfortably the entire time, and I just enjoyed my late night pizza, shirtless in the busiest part of the hotel. Considering they said, no shirt, no access to the elevator, I'm surprised they were so okay with OP just standing there in the lobby. You would think they would say like, sir, you need to wait outside. This just isn't okay in our lobby. We know he's bringing you a shirt down, but you can't stand in the lobby like this. Nope, just stood there, hung out with you, while you stood there shirtless munching on pizza. Maybe they wanted a free show? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.